Hey everyone. I just did a leak project video just dropped today about my Astro Theology and the prediction of the stock market crash, which will happen in Libra. If you guys want to go over to Rex's channel, that's fine. If you're here because you saw Rex's the video on Rex's channel, I want to welcome you. And I want to tell you this is the most important video I'm going to ever do. And not that everything is downhill from here, but this is the most important thing that you guys need to understand. Okay. So I put a PowerPoint together because you guys know how I love PowerPoints. Okay. So what is God? Okay. Now I did a 3 or 4 part video on this, but I wanted to put it in a PowerPoint. I wanted to put it in one place so that it could be shared. The more people that see this, the more people that understand this, the better off we are. And if everyone came to this understanding, there'd be peace on earth. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start reading to you from my first book, which I wrote 10 years ago. Okay. Scientists have determined through completion of the Genome Project that humans are roughly 99.7% identical DNA wise. 2 penguins are more genetically different than you and I are. Whomever finds this, I want you to try this experiment. Write your name down. Write your 2 parents' names down above yours. Now you have 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and you go on. Let's go back 35 generations. It roughly takes you back to the year 840 AD. You will have 137 billion people. The number of ancestors list reminds me of the story of the servant summoned by the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was pleased with how the servant was doing and wanted to reward him. Serving you is all I desire, sir, the servant insisted. No, I insist you ask for something, anything you desire, the Pharaoh said back. This went back and forth until the Pharaoh got mad and threatened punishment. After thinking long and hard, the servant, seeing a chessboard in front of him, said, On day 1, I want 1 piece of rice. On the second, I want 2. Each day you will double the previous days until this chessboard is complete. I will place a grain on each square representing each day completed. The first day, the Pharaoh sent his finest servant in a parade with a gold pouch to deliver the grain. The amount grew exponentially, and halfway through the board, literally on the 32nd day, there was no more grain in the land. The Pharaoh summoned the servant back in. Your Highness, all I ever wanted to do was serve you, replied the servant. The servant, although now the wealthiest man in all the land, had retained his hubris. It was there that the Pharaoh learned not to question humility or assume that giving material gifts as tokens of appreciation were all that mattered. As for the servant, he continued to work for the Pharaoh. However, he had taken all the rice and continued to feed all the poor and homeless until the day of his death. The point of both these stories is that it's simple math. In fact, it's how cells divide in your body and mass produce. The reason I stopped at this particular time frame, okay, which was 840 AD, was because it was roughly how many people it's been calculated that have ever lived on planet Earth. 140 billion people, that is. Even if we take the Bible literally, we still need to get to October 23rd, 4004 BCE. We're in a bit of a pickle here. There needs to be a way to bridge the gap, and this is where the pedigree collapse theory comes in. The concept states that there are no other explanation other than a whole lot of incest. Sometimes, like in the case of the Kentucky Blue people, there are no branches on the family tree. Sometimes, like in the banking or royal families, it is to preserve money or special genetics. Based on our DNA, geneticists say that the furthest point one person can be on this planet from another is 50th cousins. If your mom was from country X and your dad was from country X as well, there is a 20% chance they share a common ancestor within 10 generations back. So what does it all mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means far enough back we are all related and all one, and we should start to act like it. Let's explore different cognitive viewpoints. How about from a creationist then? Well, we all came from Adam and Eve. Technically, Eve from Adam's rib, and even more technically, Adam was made from mud and dirt from the world God created. How about from an evolutionist then? Okay, let's start with the Big Bang. Let alone the fact that all the material we are came from an infinitesimally dense singularity, and nobody seems to want to explain where that singularity came from. But we'll let that slide. We were all one at one point. How about the idea of source energy then? I'll try. If our souls are like crumbs off a cookie, the cookie being source, God, whatever you want to call it, then we are all connected multidimensionally, and upon death, it will be a vibrational change of frequency back to it. Let's try one last one. Aliens placing us here. You would still have to account for the first humans or how we all came about. You don't just magically have a species, poof, we're here. Or do you? If so, who created the first test group of people? Secondly, what about the first spirit consciousness of DNA that evolved this higher level of thinking, the self-awareness? that I didn't write in, but the self-awareness that we're talking about, consciousness. There's a big difference between what I'm writing and a monkey who's fed up with people taking pictures of him and throwing shit at them. Still, though, the point is at some point, things had to come back to a singularity in the sense of one source of point. Humans are so quick to think of the end of the world, things ending, but what they can't do is think about the beginning, or if there was something before the beginning. That was my first book. I wrote that 10 years ago, and it was only published 8 years ago. I lied. It was only published 2 years ago. Okay, but I wrote it in 2012. It was so close to the ultimate truth. So close. So first, what we need to do is define God. Okay, so the sun tells the hour of the day, the moon tells the day of the month, and the zodiac tells the month of the year, if any of you have ever heard me talk about Astro Theology before. Okay, aside from the fact that DNA is a computer blueprint for life and that we have a perfect calendar in the heavens, in the middle of nowhere in the Milky Way galaxy, there is a perfect calendar for us to figure out. These are fingerprints of God. So now we've defined God as existing. That's step one. But where is God? Well, it must be beyond space and time, beyond the 11 dimensions of string theory. Ask any religious person to define God, and they will tell you that God is infinite. Once you put God in a location, that puts him within creation, within the infinite. God is beyond that. God is infinite. How can something exist outside of infinity? It cannot. It can't. The biggest lie we've been taught is that we are separate from God, that we should fear it, that we are separate from it. We are a part of it. Many of you have children. They are literally half your DNA, so they are a part of you, but you experience them subjectively outside your body. So is with God and us. A piece of God comes down in what we call consciousness into a body, and we feel separate from it. We are all God experiencing itself subjectively. If you are infinite and everything, nothing can exist outside of you. Not space or time. So what to do if you're everything? So what do you do if you're everything? Remember, you're everything, okay? You're outside of space and time, so you understand the beginning and the end. You can see everything. You're everything. What is there to do if you're everything? Well, you can't experience something new, can you? You can't. Okay, so what do? You trick yourself into thinking that you're not God and experience yourself subjectively. We are a species with amnesia living in a simulation. Einstein said about God that he believes in the God of Spinoza. Baruch Spinoza was a thinker who said that God doesn't want you huddled in churches and temples in the cold, praying as loud as you can with others, praying the loudest, as Jesus says, that those that give for publicity or pray the loudest, they have their reward. What that basically means when Jesus says they have their reward, those who pray the loudest and those who give for publicity, is their adulations feed their ego, and that's their prize. But it's not humble. It's not true. So if you pray by yourself. Spinoza's God wants you to go to the mountains and the lake and enjoy what I am created for you and worship that way. The biggest lie we've ever been collectively taught is that we need to fear and worship. When we are a baby, we are in our mother's womb. The mother, being the supreme being, is aware of the baby. However, the baby is not aware of the mother from its vantage point, as is us with God. We are each a piece of God, unaware of the whole because we're in the middle of it. Okay? This is Alan Watts. Jesus Christ knew he was God. So wake up and find out eventually who you really are. In our culture, of course, they'll say you're crazy and you're blasphemous, and they'll either put you in jail or in the nut house, which is pretty much the same thing. However, if you wake up in India and tell your friends and relations, my goodness, I've just discovered that I'm God, they'll just laugh and say, oh, congratulations, at least you found out. That's Alan Watts. Okay? This brings us to Nargis Allegria. Okay? To become absolute, you have to accept that you are God, that there is only God. You have to admit that others are gods too. But if your love does not stretch that far and you are blinded by your shadow, don't complain that liberation did not happen yet. Why should freedom reveal itself to someone who refuses to embody love? When you are ready to perceive God in everything, you have opened a gate that opens the possibility of being eaten raw by the absolute. P.S. Everything you hate is God, because there is only God. Anything you think should not be happening is God, because there is only God. Realize there only being God, and it will prevail, first in your experience and then in the collective. Okay, so when Buddha's talking about getting enlightened under the fig tree, okay, this is what he's come to realize. Okay, he's come to realize that he is also God. Okay, now Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create the darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Everything in existence is a part of God. The good, the bad, all of it. Religious people can't admit they are God. Only Jesus and God are God. But how can something exist outside the infinite? String theory used to be the most cutting edge quantum physics, and it talks of 11 dimensions to make it work. Now, as in literally now, the most cutting edge quantum physics states that the universe is conscious. Well, welcome to the fucking party. Incidentally, Hermes talked about string theory 6,000 years ago. The third Hermetic principle is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything vibrates. You are God experiencing itself subjectively through amnesia. The book of Thomas saying 77. Split a piece of wood and I am there. Raise up a stone and you will find me. God is everything. The wood, the stone. And this now makes sense. Quran 532. Okay, that is why we decreed for the children of Israel that whoever kills a soul without it being guilty of manslaughter or corruption on the earth is as though he has killed all mankind. And whoever saves a life is as though he has saved all mankind. We are all one. We are all God. This makes sense now too. Matthew 25:40. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. We are all one. This makes sense now. We are all God, therefore we are infinite and eternal. When you realize you are eternal and you are God, just as the enlightened have realized in the past, you get filled with love. You no longer fear death, and you're driven to love one another. Not because of fear or punishment like the religious. The biggest mystery of life is sitting in front of you in plain sight. The religious texts allude to it, but they never come out and say it. You also have to understand that when you come to this realization, that feeling you get is the exact same feeling that religious people get when they first become saved. Only they are ruled by fear of punishment if they act out. This is why it's so hard for them to let go of the holy books as a literal text, which brings me to my next point. The book of the Bible, these scriptures are made up of what is known as the seven holy sciences: metaphysics, astrological, which I go deep into, anatomical, alchemical, spiritual, esoteric, and mythology. They are not literal, they are not historical, they are not reality, and they are not original. Okay, I'll give you an example. I've given plenty of astrotheological examples, but the Bible is also etymology. It's also numerology. Okay, for example, Mount Sinai. Okay, why was it called Mount Sinai? Mount Sinai is a combination of two words. Okay, Sin, which is the Sumerian word for moon god, and Ai, which is the Sumerian word for mountain. So it's the mountain of the moon god. Why is it the mountain of the moon god? Because when Moses went up to get the 10 Commandments, they were down there in the desert. They saw the mountain, and the moon came up behind it at night. So they thought that's where the moon came from. Okay. The Bible is also numerology. Examples 3, 12, 33. It's also anatomical. Okay. As I've mentioned, the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac signs, anatomically, it would be the 12 cranial nerves, the 33. Jesus was 33, the 33 bones in your vertebrae. Okay, the Bible is all these things. I've been studying Astro Theology from the best in the world before I started doing it myself. I've been at it for 10 years, and I'm nowhere near understanding the entire thing. Each one of these sciences requires that kind of study. It is literally more information than you can earn an entire lifetime, and it's meant to humble you. The Bible is the most extraordinary book that's out there. For you guys that follow me, that listen to me break everything down, I only tackle one of these things. I only touch the astrological. Okay? We are all God interacting with itself. We are eternal and infinite and powerful. We use DMT and hallucinogenics to see other realms and connect with God. We meditate to lose the voice in our head so that we can be one with the all. This is the secret of life. And the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. And those are the secrets of the world, people. If everyone understood this, there would be peace. So please share this. Please let me know what you think. Leave comments. I truly appreciate you guys listening, and welcome all you new people. Thank you.